Welcome to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority regular meeting agenda, March 18th, 2024. I would like to call the meeting to order. We have everybody in attendance with the exception of Member Kibala. Additions, deletions, approval of the agenda. Can we get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion approved.
I'll second.
Motion made by Member Schweiberger and seconded by Mayor Hyduk. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. The first one, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for February 26, 2024. Can we have a motion for that?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Member Hoffman-Sockman,
Second.
seconded by Vice President Drainus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The second one, approve the minutes of the workshop of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for February 26, 2024. Can we have a motion for that?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for February 26th meetings.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to the consent agenda. Number one, affirm the Economic Development Loan Fund as of February 29th, 2024, in the amount of $1,343,514.72. Number two, approve the disbursements for the month of February in the amount of $189,990.05. And number three, set the next regular meeting of Heda for Monday, April 15th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. And number four, set the next Heda working session for Monday, April 15th, 2024, following the regular meeting in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. Can we get a motion for the consent agenda?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read and published.
Motion made by Member Hoffman-Sockman,
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Steve, you were first.
I'll support that.
supported by Vice President Drainus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to presentations. Betsy?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. In front of you in your packet tonight, the first item is the vendor's deferred loan request. So there is a loan write-up which talks about the fact that this particular application fits priority number one, investment in building renovations to enhance the lifespan, to assist eligible business owners for the rehabilitation of commercial properties located in the city designated focus district. Overall economic benefits of the proposed project will make some much-needed improvements to a Howard Street building to enhance its lifespan and ensure energy efficiencies by replacing the roof. The borrower has secured the necessary funding for this project from their own equity and an AEOA Business Energy Retrofit Grant. This business is a vibrant and welcome fixture on Howard Street. There is no need to analyze the repayment for this because the deferred loan program is forgiven after 5 years as long as they stay in the business, in the building, and keep their utilities, taxes, and the jobs that they promised. They are current on all of those so far, and have been a longstanding member of this community. So the assumption then obviously is that they will continue. And we request then that will be listed on the property as a, how do we say that? A secured party?
Yes,
Andy?
little mortgage, yep.
Yep, so that in case they decide to sell, we will be, a notification to us will be triggered so that we can negotiate their exit if it's before the 5 years, and listed as additional insured on the business insurance policy. Any questions on that particular item? So their application then is for $30,000 from our deferred loan fund, which is there, so. And that's a third of their project.
I would just like to comment, it's great to see a longstanding business utilize this new deferred loan program. Betsy, how many have, is this third or fourth loan that we've done for this?
This would be
particular-
the fourth.
The fourth, okay, thank you.
Yep, yep. And our hope for this project was to do 7 to 12. So we're well on our way there, which is good.
So this is about a $90,000 project.
Yes.
Very good.
Yep, exactly. All right, so the second item then is the AMGS new facility update, talking through the RFP that was done after the February HEDA meeting, the resolution for the land, and the site development prep grant from the IRRR. In your packet tonight, the first item there is to make application to and accept grant funds from the Department of IRRR from their business development program. In our conversations over the past few months with the IRRR, we have talked with them about the pre-development fees for this project, and that the city has dedicated $67,000 roughly, or EDA has dedicated $67,000 roughly of our own funds to arrive at this state that we sit at right now. And then we're also dedicating the $100,000 portion of land from that 0339 parcel that the EDA owns. So they have allowed us to make application then, which will go before their March 26th board meeting for some additional pre-development funds to continue that project work moving forward. So that's that resolution for that grant application, which is in your packet. So that talks about the site development grant. The second resolution talks about the dedication of that land. So typically, when we're doing a project, we have a development or a pre-development agreement with the project that talks about the land parcel that we're sort of dedicating to the project, and that ties it up in this development until such time as the development happens or the project stalls and goes away. So because we're acting in that project and client role in conjunction with the AMGS, this is the way that we can say as the EDA that we are actually designating this land to the project to keep it designated and out of, opportunity for someone else to come along and purchase. Andy, am I missing anything there with that particular?
No, thank you.
Okay, excellent.
So we can use this as a match then?
Yes.
Okay, and the 67, you said, what was property value?
The property value is 100,000 as
And
appraised.
you said 67,000.
Was the pre-development funds that we've paid for some design
We had-
services up
okay.
front and things.
We did geo on this site also?
Yep, geotechnicals with
Was that
Braun
Braun?
Intertech.
Okay.
Yep. So we've put some funds forward, and
Yep.
in order to keep moving, the EDA doesn't have an unlimited bank account, and we're, stewarding public dollars and taxpayer dollars. So we requested that the IRRR assist with this next portion, and they've agreed to. All right. And then third is the design RFP process. At the February meeting, the HEDA board, we talked about this RFP process, and it was kicked off the day after the February 26th meeting. The IRRR requested that we have this team brought on board and named prior to their March 26th board meeting to secure this site prep grant and to keep the project on track for a June kickoff with their June meeting. The AMGS project is a greenfield development and a standard manufacturing facility, roughly a rectangular box, 4 walls and a roof. We had 4 responses to the construction manager at risk and 2 responses for architecture. The spreadsheet for that scoring criteria was in your packet tonight. The technical review team met first and reviewed them, and then we ran it past the finance committee, and then it's in front of the EDA board tonight for a decision. At this time, the staff recommendation is for a construction manager at risk to be awarded to Kraus Anderson, that Widseth be awarded the architectural and some engineering services, and that Bar Engineering work on the electrical design and the electrical load profiles as they've been working with the project up to this point. And we have been calling on them as well from the EDA.
So Bar was who we were working with on the old building too, correct?
Yes.
So basically, it's the same electrical feed that's going to be needed in either building for the expansion size that Jason.
Correct. Correct. All right, so any other questions on that?
Yes, Betsy, just for record only, I guess I want to, who was part of the internal team?
Sure.
Do you mind sharing that?
Sure, so our engineering staff, we had Jeremy Aho and Jesse Story, Nick Arola, and myself.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on that? I do have Kraus Anderson here in the audience tonight, so if you have any questions about the proposal that they submitted or those sorts of things, they are here to be able to answer those.
Did you want to come forward, one of you?
So this is Mr. Dan Markham, and he will be the project manager.
I'm the Director of Operations
sorry,
for Kraus
excuse me.
Anderson Duluth. So, Madam President, board members, thank you for the opportunity. I'm available if you have any questions.
I guess I can start off. How do you come forward with a completion date, without really seeing what's going on? How does that work, just so I understand how the whole process goes along?
In talking with with Betsy and others on the team in advance, what we understand is the goal here is to get this building up as quickly as we can. And so we don't necessarily know what that project schedule will look like, but the first thing we'll try to answer is what is the construction type that will get us in the ground and complete it as quickly as possible. The two most likely are pre-engineered steel building or a precast concrete building. So now that we see the dimensions and talk with the business owner about their needs, and of course what the requirements are, the stakeholders as the Hibbing Economic Development Authority, what your needs are, we'll be able to make a quick assessment of what is the building type, and of course it meets the budget, but also can be developed as quickly as possible.
So you're just kind of guesstimating when you see.
I mean, it's going to be an approximate. We figured that it's going to be likely 7 to 9 month construction project once we identify, but what type of building that will be. But it's possible that we may go out for an early bid package just to order the pre-engineered steel or the precast concrete, depending on what we decide to do. And then we will work backwards from the time that we know that building will be delivered. We'll work backwards from that to identify the site or the time at which we'll start all of the site work in order to meet that schedule. But we haven't had time to work with the design team at all to even begin to understand all those parameters that'll go into it. And so initially we'll just be assessing what the needs of the site are and the needs of the business owner are.
Okay.
Question, historically, having worked with both types of building components, what is, do you prefer one over the other? And also, which one generally is a faster assembly time if materials are available?
It really depends on each project, of course, but for a heavier industrial type project, we would recommend precast steel if it's a lighter industrial, precast concrete if it's a heavier type user. If there's going to be substantial cranes in the building, that type of thing would tend to push us more towards precast concrete. If it's going to be more mid to light manufacturing, pre-engineered steel can be adequate, depending on what the capacity of the cranes are. All of that engineering needs to be done. What we're seeing right now is a little bit of a blend. It's hard to say right now which type of construction, which type of product we might expect the shortest lead times on. So really in the next 2 to 3 weeks, once we begin working with the designer, I think we'll be able to get an answer on that.
And I would assume, I guess the owner would be the city of Hibbing and the IRRB, but the tenant who would be in this, I know the IRRR likes their buildings to be multi-purpose, and a box building does that, of course, because it's floor space, that you're rearranging your components for whatever manufacturing purpose it is. How much will the tenant have input in how they would like to see a building built?
Well, with either construction type, we're generally, as you just said, we're talking about a pretty vanilla box that we'll be building, but we will have a high level of coordination, particularly with the mechanical and the electrical systems, to make sure those rough-ins get in place. So there'll have to be a lot of coordination with the equipment that he'll be bringing in to make sure that we get those, whether it's pneumatic air drops, whether it's, the electrical and plumbing that'll be going in the floor and in the walls, just to make sure we're getting those roughed into the right places before the concrete comes in. So we'll be working intimately with him and his team in order to make sure we understand what all those needs are of the business. But like you said, the Hibbing Economic Development Authority is ultimately the owner, so we have to be responsible to the budget, for the budget to you.
When you get into, you mentioned a crane, and I think that's one of the components I think they were looking at. And it could be a floor rail crane, something that's independent from the building, or it could be built into the structure. Will both those options be looked at when, I guess what I'm looking at here is value engineering.
Yep.
Meaning getting the function and the value at the best price that we can get. I think we want to do due diligence for our community and also for, our proposed tenant.
Right.
So that we have an affordable building, but yes, extremely functional for the purpose.
Yeah, and those decisions, particularly about cranes, though, depending on the nature of them, that could be an equipment decision for the business. If it's freestanding or if it's built into the building, then that is just a question that we'll have to answer with our engineering team.
Does the IRRR prefer one building over another, like the metal building or the precast? Do they have a preference on what, do they contribute, whether or not it goes either way?
Madam President, yes, they do. They have indicated that if, price is relatively the same, they would prefer a precast concrete. But if there is a significant price difference, then they are perfectly fine with the pre-engineered metal building. So that is one, indication we have gotten. And then towards the construction schedule question as well, we do have Katie Hildebrand here from Widseth, who has been looking at this project a little bit longer than Carl Sanderson and has some information maybe on that construction schedule and what they have determined as far as that time frame as well. So if you'd like to ask her that as well, she probably can answer some.
So, Madam President, I could also like to comment, part of that decision-making can also be not just what is the cost to build the building, but what is the ongoing operating cost trade-offs of the building, additional maintenance, just the operating costs associated with utilities. There can be trade-offs associated with those factors as well. So all of those we can make available, and we'll work through those with the designer in order to get the answer that best meets all the stakeholders' needs.
So Alon, what are we looking at target-wise as far as a dollar amount that we're trying to, having a budget to work within too is a part of any project. So at this time, do we have a target with the IRRB that their comfort level with them?
So at this point, the business development grant that they've authorized is $300,000, which will be going to their board for approval next week. And the EDA board has authorized up to $9.5 million. But the IRRR has not given me a number target at this time.
Okay.
And that's why they want the design team brought on board, is to help really refine that design and get to a good number. And that will go to their June meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Hyduk.
Yeah. One last question. We've had different numbers as far as size of buildings. What are we targeting at this point? Is it 30, 35, 40? What is our target number, square footage right now?
Sure. Member Hyduk, thank you for that question. It is going at 35,000 square feet,
Okay.
and that was what the RFP went out at.
All right, very good.
Any other questions for our guest?
Do you utilize any other of local I know you have Bar and Widseth, but as far as any other local contractors or anything, when you put this together, is this just all from Kraus Anderson?
We're hired as construction manager, so we will self-perform very little, if any, of the actual work on this project. All of the work scopes, whether it's, the electrical, mechanical, what little carpentry has to be done, will all be competitively bid, and we can work with, and intend to work with the building user, owner of the business, and the design team to make sure that we've got all the right qualified contractors that, and develop interest for the project well in advance of the construction documents going out for bid. So we're a union contractor. We intend to hire all union, and if there's a project labor agreement that's part of the deal, we've successfully negotiated those and worked under that structure as well.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have one other question. Although bidding, when you're bidding buildings, you're bidding whether it's a tip-up or metal constructed building generally. Does the building go out for bid that way, or is there a preferred contractor or type of building that you prefer to work with?
Yeah, we are a Nucor building dealer, pre-engineered steel building dealer, so we'll work with Nucor to
Okay.
supply the building, and then we'll work with a erection company to erect it on site. If the decision is made to go with precast, we will discuss that with several precast plank manufacturers throughout the area in order to, one, identify the best lead time and, of course, the best price and figure out which product would be best.
Okay, so last, to follow up on that question, then does the Nucor, and the only reason I ask this, because we have a Nucor rep in this community. Does that get bid out, or do you work with a local Nucor rep?
We generally work with the local Nucor rep that you're referring to. Yep. Yeah, they're our preferred company.
All right.
Yep.
All the questions I have.
Okay.
Okay, nobody else has any questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, answering our questions.
All right, and the third item is the amendment to the Midwest Properties loan to accommodate the $250,000 from the Department of IRRR pending approval on March 26th. And I will refer that over to Finance Director Sheena Mullner and our City Attorney Andy Borland.
Thank you, Betsy. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. For item 3, this is a presentation which will precede the later on item to approve how we would structure this. But so the $250,000 would be going to the IRRB on their March 26th meeting, and then that would become part of our loan. So we had already approved the $250,000, remember, which is 3% interest amortized over 9 years, interest only for 1 year. So the note terms would be for 10 years total. So what I will be asking the board to approve would be that provided the IRRB approve the other $250,000 that we would be servicing, is that the $250,000 would go back into the EDA fund, and then the other $250,000 that was lent from the City of Hibbing's general fund would be paid back at the same time that we receive it. So half would go to the general fund and half would come back into the EDA fund at the same terms. So 3% interest over a 10-year note, 1 year interest only. The only real question that I have for the board is that we've already gotten that $250,000 life insurance policy. So would we want to change the terms of that policy at all, or keep it at $250,000 since that is the amount of our note? Does anyone have any?
I guess, what do you recommend? I mean, what is your viewpoint, or Andy?
Do you have anything? I mean, our money is the $250,000, but the other money is the IRRB's, which is still coming back into our finances, so.
And it's coming as a grant, so.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, my recommendation would be that we essentially have just one mortgage rather than two on this, so that we rewrite the documents to say we're now having a note and a mortgage for $500,000 overall. With regard to the life insurance, I believe it's incumbent on the board to protect Heda's money, not necessarily the IRRR. I realize they're giving a grant, but I don't know that I necessarily would negotiate hard with regard to increasing the life insurance as The requester already met that criteria. He's getting money from really another source, and we're the conduit for that.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you.
So I guess with that being said, I would probably recommend just keeping the life insurance policy that's already in place of the 250,000, keeping the terms the same at the 3%, 10-year note, 1-year interest only, and then amortized over 9 years. And then upon him making his payments monthly, then half of it would go back to the general fund and half of it would go into the EDA fund. But if anyone has any questions, otherwise.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
And
now we
that is
can
the end of the presentations.
move on to the board reports. Looks like it's back to you, Sheena.
So for item A is the loan updates. Within your packet was the updated loan balance spreadsheet, and I also handed out a copy for you this evening. So we can go through just some updates on the loans. Andy's office did send me a letter today, so that is going out in the mail to Demjanovich's regarding the judgment on the loans that have not been repaid. So I'll follow up with you on that, on any feedback we get for that. I also wanted to note that for Koshak's loan, that the note was paid off, so we'll be satisfying the mortgage on that. Sullivan Candy, we are trying to reach out to him. We sent him an email, but we haven't heard back. We did have a couple of returned ACHs on his loan. January and February's, March's did clear. Moxie, we did get her partially caught up. We still have part of March's outstanding on both of her loans. We'll continue to follow up with her on those. And then we did have the deal closed for the property on 23rd and 1st for Smart, sweet location, so we now own that real estate. Member Tardy, her loan, she changed the business name to Elevate Skin and Laser, so I'm still trying to schedule a meeting with her to go through the loan documents. She was gonna come here last week, but she has not shown up yet, so I'm trying to reach out to her. I left her a voicemail today. What else? Still waiting for the Phase 2 environmental to be done on Heartwood Center, so we can close on that property. We just talked about Red Rock Hotel and the additional $250,000 that's going to the IRRB on 26th. And then on the back side of the schedule, Winchester LLC had her final draw on her loan for the deferred loan this week. So that's getting approved for the disbursements on Wednesday's council meeting. That's pretty much my high-level updates. Other than that, we have total revolving fund balances of just under $1.5 million, with $484,000 that has been approved but not drawn out of those funds yet.
Madam President, if I may? Attorney Borland reached out to me this afternoon, right before the meeting, about the Smart location. Attorney Borland, if you want to brief the board.
Thanks, Betsy. Madam President, members of the board, so the transaction did close. Sweet Location signed the property over to Heda. The issue is that there are delinquent taxes with regard to the property. So when we sent the deed in for recording, it got rejected. So in order to get that recorded and reflect that we're the owner, the taxes have to be addressed. And it's for 2022, 2023. That number is $4,390.23. So that needs to get addressed. Whether the board wants to approve that or consider approving that, we need to reflect that we're the owner and get the deed recorded so that we can deal with anyone if we were going to develop the property or sell the property.
Okay, any other questions?
If you want, I don't know if you want to take action on that or not.
Well, is that going to be that closed, or is that going to be our closed
No,
session?
I don't believe that's the issue for a closed. That
It's
wouldn't be
not.
that wouldn't be the basis to close the meeting.
No.
Well, I don't know. What do we think?
So what happens if this person wants to come into in the future and have another loan with Heda? Would this impact that in any manner if we were to pick up the delinquent taxes? Or is that something that we should discuss, think about?
Well, Member Hoffman-Sockman, I certainly think you should weigh that into any future considerations. So yes, I think that's totally within your rights. I mean, you negotiated in good faith. You're having to pick up the ball after the fact now.
So Andy, we don't have a choice if we decide to sell this property. It has to be up to
Right. So if the HEDA board is determined to sell this property at some time in the future, no one else's documents are going to get recorded either until those taxes are addressed. So yes, they have to get addressed.
Do we need a motion to whether or not we're going to pay the,
Motion and a second to approve paying those taxes, yes.
I'll
You
make
need to do
I'll
that.
make a motion to pay the taxes.
I have a
okay, we do have a motion made by Member Schweiberger. Do we have a second?
I'll support that.
We have support by Mayor Hyduk. Do we have further discussion?
I have a question. Why can we not go back to the owner of this property and say you need to pay your $4,390 for taxes?
Well, you certainly could, Member Hoffman-Sockman. How long that sits in limbo, though, I don't know, and will they actually pay those taxes?
So, Madam President, Member Hoffman-Sockman, would maybe a letter to the prior owner asking for those delinquent taxes to be brought up to speed so that they are aware we saw that amount, and going forward, any additional dealings that they might request of the HEDA board, we would like that either satisfied now or at some future date? Maybe that
I would feel better with that,
notification.
because I think we have to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, right?
Right.
And I don't think we want to put that out there, that we're just going to forgive, this
So
type
we
of a
could
thing.
pay this $4,390
Can always seek reimbursement from him.
and then
Yeah.
seek reimbursement from him.
Right,
That's a great approach.
that's
That would
what
be
I like
I think
that.
that's a good
I like
idea.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
So we do have a motion, we do have a second. No further discussion.
Is that an amendment, Andy, excuse me, Madam Chair, that we would have to add to this motion?
It wouldn't hurt if Member Schweiberger would be okay with making
Yeah,
that amended
yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
To amend that we
Yeah.
pay it and then get reimbursed.
Yes.
Or seek reimbursement.
Seek reimbursement. I think that's a good addition.
That's a good word.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andy, for that. Is up next here.
Ina's B.
Sheena. Sheena, is that it for you?
Well, does anyone have any other questions on the schedule other than the suite location property that, real estate? No?
That Elevate Skin and Laser, that's what she changed the name to.
Yeah, it was Northland Laser and Skin, and then she changed it to the
Yeah,
Elevate.
did we have, did all of their loan documents had to change then?
Right.
Does that fee get put on to her?
Madam President, so my office billed her a second bill because we had to redo the document
Okay.
for that name. And I think that's a bone of contention from what I understand with the owner, is that she feels like she's being billed twice, and we had to redo the documents, reflect, because she didn't just change the name sheet, it's a different entity than what she had before.
Yes, yep, I see that, yep.
Whether that's the entire hangup, but I know she's reached out to me with a concern about the services that I billed her for.
Okay. That's what I was kind of wondering.
Madam President, that is our standard practice, though, is to bill that to the project who requests the loan.
And she understands that now, I assume.
She understands that. I don't think appreciates that, but she understands that.
So,
She doesn't appreciate it. I just actually talked with her today.
No.
She doesn't appreciate it. She's, like you said, it is what it is. Just understand that her billing is with Simon Borland. It's not with the city. It doesn't
Right.
with the city having anything. it's the job the attorney is doing for her, if it would be Andy or if it'd be any other attorney. So that's, you know, and I understand both sides of it. Sucks to be in her situation or she's redoing it just because the naming part was different, but on the other side too, the attorney doing the work paid for what they're doing.
Right, yep.
So is that something that we might consider making a little bit more clear in our guidelines for HEDA? Our application guidelines or whatever those?
Member Hoffman Sockman, Madam President, we do have that on our workshop tonight, yes,
Oh,
to have a discussion about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, any other questions for Sheena? If not, thank you, Sheena, for that.
I'll move on to item then, if I may. So for item B, following up on our presentation, I'm asking the board then to approve the modifications to the Midwest Properties loan documents to add the Department of the IRRB $250,000 pending approval at their March 26th board meeting. So the terms would be the same, the 3%, a 10-year note, interest only for the first year, and then amortized over 9. We would pay back the general fund's loan for half of the amount that we receive monthly, and then the EDA would retain the other half, that was the IRRB's grant, and then we would keep the life insurance policy as he's already taken it out in the $50,000. For the board to approve that,
Okay,
provided the IRRB approve it at their meeting.
Do we have a motion for B, approve the modifications of the Midwest property loan?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Vice President Durenus,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you.
Betsy, back to you for number 2.
Yes, so, Madam Chair, members of the board, my first item is to request approval for the deferred loan for $30,000 for Benders, as presented in the loan write-up earlier.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Letter B.
All right, item B is to approve the resolution to apply for site development preparation grant from the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation for the amount of $300,000 from their Business Development Fund.
Do we have a motion for that?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion made by Member Hoffman Sockman,
I'll support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Letter C.
Madam President, members of the board, tonight I'd ask that you approve Resolution 240305 to designate, 230404, I believe, to designate parcel ID 140-0270-00339 for the AMGS expansion project.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
We have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support?
supported by Vice President Durenus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. D.
Excellent. So item D is to approve the service agreement for pre-construction services to be provided by Kraus Anderson to head up the design team for the AMGS expansion project as construction manager at risk. This suits city's strategic plan core strategy number 4.c, vibrant economic hub, economic growth to draw and retain people. The Hibbing Economic Development Authority has been incubating a manufacturing business, Advanced Machine Guarding Solutions, in its North Hibbing building since 2021. Since that time, AMGS has grown from a fledgling company to a solid manufacturing company in the city of Hibbing, and has informed Heda that there is additional demand for their products requiring more operational capacity. Advanced Machine has secured funds from the State of Minnesota's Department of Employment and Economic Development Automation Loan Program, Park State Bank,
and the Department of IRRR to add new equipment to their manufacturing operations. This new equipment and additional sales drive the need for additional manufacturing space, more power consumption, and new job creation. In 2023, an engineering assessment determined that the North Hibbing building wasn't suitable for the expansion necessary for an industrial-type manufacturing facility. Heda has nearby land that is suitable for constructing the necessary manufacturing space based on the pre-development work to date. Now it is time to form the design team to continue to develop this project more fully. So the request tonight is to approve the service agreement for pre-construction services to be provided by Kraus Anderson to head up the design team for the AMGS expansion project, pending legal review of the agreement, which has already been sent to Attorney Borland, and Department of IRRR approval of the funding at their next board meeting on March 26th. Madam Chair, I will stand for any questions.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor by Member Hoffman Sockman. Do we have a support?
I will support that.
Supported by Vice President Jaranis. Do we have further discussion?
I have some further discussion. My question to KA is, what was the last project that you did in Hibbing? Or that you were a part of? I'm just looking for history here.
Thank you, Mayor Hyduk. I'd have to rack my memory. One of the representative projects that we presented in our proposal was the Bemidji Steel Building. That was, and I don't recall the year of that, but that was probably the most recent one done, completed by us.
Okay. A question I have for you. L&M Radiator was originally your project, is that correct?
Excuse me?
L&M Radiator?
That was before my time with the company, but yes, it was.
Okay. And I know that was originally your project, but you didn't finish that project. I just want to, I guess my concern is, I don't want the same thing that happened in that project where your company was replaced
Okay. Nor do
on
I.
this project.
Understood. Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know the details surrounding that. So I can't comment further on that at this time, but I can assure you that this project, like all of our projects, is a very high priority for us, and we will dedicate all the resources necessary to complete it successfully.
Okay, I thank you for that answer.
We don't know why they were replaced?
I think it had to do with value engineering, as far as it was going over budget, and that's why I brought up value engineering earlier, in that there is a budget, and that's why I was asking those questions earlier. We have a budget number we're trying to stay within
Yep.
to meet the needs, I think, of a great customer and a great tenant and a great product. I don't want things to get sidetracked or delayed for any reason, because I know time, correct me if I'm wrong, is a necessity here, not only for funding, but also for production for Jason, for AMGS. So that's why I'm asking this question.
If I could comment, we've been selected to do a project for Iron Range Resources right now.
Okay.
That we are in the design phase, and we were selected for that back in the late fourth quarter. And we're at a good place in this project, very similar to that one, that we were brought on board very early during the design. And in this case, that gives us the opportunity as well to work very closely with the design team in order to make sure that we are monitoring those, the cost of the building from conceptual design all the way through construction documents.
Right.
Many of the challenges that we have often when it comes to budget is we get involved much later in the design process, when the owner and the architect have been working together to identify what they need, where we'll be involved in this process very early on. So the three members of that team will be working very closely together. So the budget will be at the top of our priority list and things that we are tracking, in addition to those the functionality of the building for the owner. So again, I apologize, I'm not able to comment on what happened in the past with that project, but I can tell you that our early involvement and our history completing projects successfully and getting them done on budget, I think speaks for itself. And if you're looking for a reference for how well that value engineering process is going on this current project with IRRR, you could speak with their representative, so.
Thank you. I appreciate
you.
your answer.
And isn't the time frame, I guess, to do, I mean, we don't know if it's going to be a precast building or if it's going to be a metal building. I mean, a metal building would go up, I would assume, a lot faster, a lot quicker than it is going to be to, pour concrete walls on a precast building.
Really?
Or
because-
their tip,
They come,
their tip.
they're,
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay.
it really, it depends on the fabrication time in the factory, whether it's coming from the factory where they're fabricating the steel or from the plant where they're pouring the concrete panels and then they put them on trucks and we schedule the delivery. So they arrive on site and the erection time, whether it's steel or concrete, actually goes very quickly. It's really probably the largest variable that we have yet to determine is what is the lead time within those factories in order to produce that
yeah.
product.
Kind of summarizing what I heard just, within the last half hour was, if both are very usable and functional ways to put up buildings, they're done everywhere. You just mentioned Bemidji Steel, which I've seen, but what it comes down to, as was mentioned by the Administrator Brzezinski, is if we get into a dollar figure that's very close, it's an IRRB building, so they're going to have some say on the direction we have to go. And if they're close, it might be one over the other. But I just want to make sure that timing is huge, function is met, and cost, the budget is something that we try and meet, so.
well, and I'd just like to add, I think that, and I'm comfortable by making this motion is because I think you're supporting Cass with having Winseth, with Ms. Hildebrand in the audience here, as well as Bar Engineering. There's a comfort level with that, too, so.
And that's why I asked about Nucor. You mentioned Nucor, we have a local dealer, and I think that's very important to me, that we stay as local as possible.
Yeah.
Well, and again, but the expertise that they can bring
Yes.
as
Yep.
the construction
Yeah, that was
manager
my
at risk, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Very good, thank you so much.
And one last thing I'd like to add, if I could, is just, we also have a great history of working with the Widseth team as well, in very recent history, so I think they can testify to our abilities to deliver the project
right.
on budget. So thank you very much.
Yep.
We have a first and a second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
I will say aye.
all opposed?
Aye.
So we have a 3-1, is that correct?
Are you voting?
You vote?
I didn't vote, no, no. I guess I'm an aye. So, yes. No other further discussion, we got a motion, we got a second, motion carries.
Excellent. So item E then is to approve the service agreement with Widseth to perform design services for the AMGS expansion project. I'm not going to read the preamble or the justification or introduction. Just, I will go right to the committee action on this request for HEDA action is to approve the service agreement for design services to be provided by Widseth for the AMGS expansion project pending legal review of the agreement, which I am getting from Widseth and will send over to Andy, and Department of IRRR approval of the funding at their next board meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve service agreement contract?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to the next one.
Excellent. So the last item then on my agenda for tonight is to approve the service agreement with Bar Engineering to perform electrical design services for the AMGS expansion project, pending legal review of the agreement and Department of IRRR approval of the funding at their next board meeting.
Do we have a motion for this?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Vice President Drainus,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Betsy.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is the City Attorney Andrew Borland.
Madam President, members of the board, apparently you might consider wanting to purchase a piece of real property under the parcel code 1400090035520. You can discuss that in closed session, which is why it's on here in that way. So you need a motion and a second to go into closed session. I don't know if the board contemplated wanting to take action on that after this meeting and whether it should be left open. Otherwise, if you don't planning on taking any action tonight on it, from that fashion, you can make a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting now, knowing you're going to come back for a working session thereafter. I didn't know what the board's contemplation, maybe Betsy can get some direction on that part.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, there is a 30-day window on this. So I believe if you're comfortable taking action tonight, we should leave the meeting open, and then you can make adjournment after that if you decide not to.
Okay, so before we adjourn, then we do need a motion
We need a motion and a second to go into
to
closed
go into
session.
closed session. Yes, can we have a motion to go into the closed session for the purpose of this real property?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Schreiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So we will go into closed session. Right. Okay, we are reconvening after our closed session, and after our discussion, we are looking for a motion to authorize Betsy to negotiate a sale price on parcel number 140-0090-03520. So do we have a motion to authorize Betsy to do this for us?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And with that being our end of the meeting, we just look for a motion to adjourn.
We'll move.
Moved by Member Schreiberger,
Support.
supported by Vice President Drainus. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.